and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Hey, you got into the announcer voice right there. You even had the slide. And Daniel. Well done. All right, you're getting into the spirit. I knew I'd rub off on you eventually, and thank you for doing that.
No.
Even now that I've brought it up, you're never doing it again.
No.
But you know, it is what it is. It was worth it.
No, it wasn't.
It absolutely was. Daniel, it's been a while since we've done one of these compare and contrast.
Yeah, it has. It's been quite a bit. I don't remember what the last one was.
The last one was... I don't know.
I'll have to look it up.
It's been at least a few months now.
Yeah, it's been a couple months.
Yeah, so we're overdue for this. And we try to keep it once every month or two.
Yeah.
Just to keep it on.
Every few episodes, just to give us something different instead of like our top 8 of this or
exactly.
Our discussion topics, stuff like that.
Not that we're running out of ideas or anything. If you have any ideas, feel free to let us know.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, no, we think that this is a fun little topic. And as soon as you told me this idea, we were thinking like, oh, well, what games are compared a lot?
Yeah.
Here and there. And you were like, wait a minute, what about this too? And I was like, oh, yeah. No,
yeah.
Like, what are we even waiting for? That's the one.
Exactly.
As soon as you said it, that was the one that we were going to do. And so the astute viewers who are here live with us have already seen, obviously, in our topic discussion.
Yeah.
But anybody else who's watching us live or on video, you'll see the two games up yonder. And that is because we are going to be comparing Lost Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium.
Yep, and that Dune Imperium is the special minis box, and the expansion's in there too.
Yeah, and you can't tell but the expansion's in Lost Ruins, right?
Yeah, the expansion's in there as well.
So it's all right. We'll be touching base on
stuff like that. Yeah.
I won't be touching base on the expansions for Dune Imperium just because I don't know them.
Actually, I haven't played Dune Imperium, but we will talk about like how it doesn't add too much to it. Right. It's something different.
And of course, if anybody joins us later on or in the chat, tell us your thoughts on either of them, and we can include that in the discussion as well. But before we do that, let's talk about some of the games we've been playing lately, Daniel. What have you been playing?
All right, so what I've been playing lately, let's start with the one that's furthest away. And it's interesting because this one was played right before we did our last Chits and Giggles topic, but we didn't put a game that we had just played that day on our list.
Tried not to.
Yeah. I let it stew a little bit, let us think about how we liked it and stuff like that. But it's also one of our favorite designers.
That's right.
Stefan Feld. We finally both got Aquasphere off our shelves of shame.
Yep.
And
oh man, it feels good to get one of those double shelf games.
Yeah. What I have to say about this game is, yeah, I can see why I really, really enjoy Stefan Feld games. I love the moving your robots around, paying the resource to go through certain areas, the little moving mechanism. This way you can train robots in certain aspects and then use your robots to, have like a little area control part of it. This is point salad through and through.
Absolutely.
I can understand why some people don't like this one.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot... I know there's a lot of his games that have a lot of moving parts, but this one...
This one's not that bad.
No.
So, here... I'm going to add on to that because, yeah, I was there when we played it because you and I played it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It took us almost longer to learn the rules and how to play it and set up than it did to play.
It really did.
Now, with Aquasphere, obviously it's like this underwater... the theme, it doesn't matter. But... Yeah. The argument I've heard a lot of people say about Aquasphere that they didn't like was that programmed movement, where you move from one spot of the board and you only have like 2 options, and that's the action thing that you could program to use later on. I don't have a problem with that. I think that mechanism worked really well. What I liked about it, and I'm gonna briefly compare it to. We played a Stefan Feld today.
Yeah.
Bora Bora. A game today called Bora Bora, and I wanted to compare them just briefly because we're not going to talk about Bora Bora today. We normally like to wait at least a day, but that one, as we were playing it, one thing that I did notice is that a lot of our moves, it really brought out the AP because there really is a lot of options. Even just determining what number to put out, much less the action, much less what you can do for that action. There's a lot to consider. Where one thing I liked about Aquasphere is how quick it went.
Yeah,
when you and me were going, we're like, all right, well, I'm programming that because I want to go here, then I want to do this, then I want to do that.
Yeah, the thing about Aquasphere compared to Bora Bora is that no matter what you did, you're still going to get a lot of points. Bora Bora, you're trying to math things out. Where Aquasphere is like, okay, I can do this. This is going to give me this. If I can do this, this is going to give me these points. It's the same difference, half dozen to whatever. So yeah, this one, I think for playing Bora Bora, Aquasphere is still higher for me than Bora Bora. Now, I don't mind Bora Bora.
I think I agree with you on that. Just by the initial impression, that first game I played of Aquasphere, I really liked it. First game of Bora Bora, I enjoyed it, but it's not, I don't know if
it's very heady. It's I would say Bora Bora is lighter than not Targi, Trajan, but just as heady. You know what I mean? Because there's so many things that you have to go through and think about. I can go here and do this action, or I can go here and do this action. Where is it going to be give me the best points? Whereas in Aquasphere, you're just like, okay, this turn is going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. And you have your moves planned out because you don't really have to worry about what someone else is doing. They're not really going to block you too much unless they clear the octopus in the area you wanted to go to first. But then you can pivot very easily and be like, okay, since he did that, I'll just go to this section here. It's in the same area, so I could still put my control over there because I have enough of my robots in this area. Or that are trained that I can do this instead and go pick up this stuff. And then I can use this special ability to do this thing to train a new one just for what I need to. But yeah, no. So my number 4 is Aquasphere.
Cool. No, good pick. There was only one thing that I didn't like about Aquasphere, and it was about the production. It's a tiny, tiny little thing. Is that you can have up to 2 of your robots programmed at a time. Nowhere did it say that limit anywhere. And it was really good about saying the everything else.
And the reason why we knew that is because of Rodney Smith, because of Watch It Played. It's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. That was the only reason we knew. And we just made a point to remember it, but we had no other reference to it.
Because we were wondering, like, how were you supposed to, because you're supposed to get your robots out, because as many robots that go out, it's points. How's that going to happen? Oh, that's because they stay locked up in this area until they have to be bounced back.
Yeah, exactly. So, speaking of heavy Euro games, let's talk about a heavy Euro game that I brought to the group that we all played.
Yep.
And I wouldn't say it's heavy.
It's not heavy at all. The rules and the teach, first time play for all 4 of us, the board is massive.
Yes.
If it's the one I think it is. It's your pick from last week, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's Francis Drake. Definitely the biggest box I had on my shelf of shame, with a couple of exceptions. That I'm glad we finally got it to the table, because I was at first really kind of nervous about it, but then when I saw what it does, it's a straight up Euro game, even though it's, we're pirates and fighting and stuff. Really,
we're privateers.
Privateers, yeah. Regardless of what we are, we're just trading resources and tokens for things, for points in different ways. But as a basic idea as that is, it's essentially worker placement and then bidding, right?
And it's not even like worker
resource management.
It's worker placement to a sense, but it's also like a worker placement like Tokaido, as far as you can go.
Right, exactly. So there's the first half of each round, then there's the second half. The first half, you're doing Tokaido style, where you're moving and you can only go as far as you've ever been. And so but then you also only have 10 discs, so you're not going to be able to visit everything.
Yeah.
And so you're moving along shortly. You're leapfrogging over everybody. And you're going along this nice boardwalk, of different things that are randomized.
That randomizes every single time.
Yeah. Now, the only problem that I had with it is that it goes like to the left at first and then up to the right on the top of the board. Yeah, it's kind of
snakes.
But then, of course, the better space is on the tile. All the better spots are on the left side of it.
Yeah.
So on that top part, you're like, you just have to remember.
The first spot on the tile. You can only
ever go to one tile once. And then that made more sense. But, oh my goodness, that part was really simple.
I like that a lot.
Fun, effective, like giving you that meaty choice of like, oh man, do I jump ahead? Do I really focus in on getting this thing? Do I get one of the character abilities like the queen? Do I get something else? Because each of those, like the governor, the queen, they all give you huge advantages. And it's whoever got to it first.
Yeah.
Like that extra ship that kept like showing up right at the beginning.
Beginning of the game,
it's like, oh, well.
And so whoever was first player, I'll take that.
Yep, we want that extra ship. Why not? Take an extra action.
Yeah.
And then after that, then everyone goes on like worker placement style. But you can only go as far as your supplies will take you.
Yeah. And also how many ships you have. So like some people can have extra ships where.
Well, you're only going to have the one ship, right?
Well, I mean the numbers.
Right. Right.
Because it determines. So if 3 people go to the same spot or 4 people go to the same spot, well, whoever has the highest numbers, they might not be able to get into that section because only 3 out of 4 can go there.
Exactly. But then it also limits, like, it makes one part of the board really tight because your supplies don't give you any points whatsoever. It just allows you to go
further. Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's one person, then hey, that's great. You're just putting pieces down.
But that also can lead to the fact because like someone who's the governor or or what is it? It's the governor and the
something else.
Where they can leave like the ships or the fighters out into different areas. So it's like, okay, I can only go to these 2 sections. I'll put this one way over here. Right. I know you guys are going over there, so not a bother to me.
Yeah, my favorite part was when they were putting out the tokens, because there's 2 different kinds. You either put out more warrior tokens or more like you need more cannons for the ships. And every single round that we played, there was always somebody in that role, because you get bonuses as well for different things that were guarded throughout that turn, because you're in good.
If you're like the governor, you get, if there's silver on the board, you get points. Right, if there's, I think it was gold for the ships,
something like that. Yeah. And so when you send those out, you're the only one privy to that information. You get to look. You get to look at them. You decide where they go, and that's your benefit. That's why you went to that spot. But then if nobody takes that spot, it's random. And then that only happened on our last round, where everyone asks, like, well, what happens if nobody gets it? It's like, oh, that's random. And we all just look at each other, oh, no. Oh, no. Like, that means, like, I can guess how many I'm going to do. Like, it was easier when somebody was picking it, because then I know that you're going to throw me under the bus.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not even worried about this spot. But now that it's random,
that was fun.
I don't know if I could do these actions anymore. Like,
I didn't do well in that game at all.
So cool, yeah. And then just like you could even go home, or you can go early and get some extra points if you saw, your bidding tokens out.
Yeah.
And that benefited people who use all their stuff early and was more efficient. And they go home early, get a couple more points.
Yeah.
So cool.
It was good.
Such a fun game.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I would not say no to play it again. My only issue is that it's only what I'm going to play with the group. So you own it. I really don't need to get a copy for myself.
Right, exactly. This is the only group that we're going to play with. You know what I found in Euro games? Every Euro game that I own, or any game that I own, where every player has their own little chest, a little treasure chest or wooden box or something, I have liked every single one of those games. There's Livingstone. There is this one. There is the Dreadful Circus. There is Mansky Caper. There's all these different games where you have your own little treasure chest or little box that you keep your stuff in. And I don't know why that's so fun, but it works. Like, the Livingstone has a function to it. Not just keep it secret in this game.
Yeah.
That's why there's no bottom to it. So it's kind of weird. But
no, it makes sense, though. But I really enjoyed it. I liked what it did.
Yes.
It's probably not my favorite sailing game that you own. Though my favorite, I'm going to end up owning myself. So, what Stefan Feld, Amerigo.
Oh, Amerigo. Yeah. Okay. I give you that one. Amerigo is probably better.
But no,
not by much.
Not by much. It's really good. I just like the cube tower more in Amerigo because you can start mathing things like, oh, I know there's a lot of black cubes in there.
Exactly.
So,
but if you want to play a more traditional, just like worker placement,
that
has the one unique mechanism, whereas like Amerigo has like
everything unique mechanism. Yeah. But that's like Feld's MO.
Yeah. You can choose any of the actions that fell out up to the number of the most. Like, wow.
So like
how do you even come up with this?
Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy how he does. But Francis Drake was really good. I enjoyed I really love the Takedo mechanism.
Yes.
But I didn't really like Takedo itself. This did it really well.
Yeah. Takedo is like a Sushi Go version of Francis Drake.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't as fun.
Yeah.
But I digress. That was the first one I wanted to talk about.
All right, moving on to my next one. All the rest of these, except for my number one, were played on our massive game day last Saturday. The first one I'm going to talk about, you've played this one, but you didn't play this one with us. It was helping Gamehead Geek get it off his shelf of shame. But I haven't talked about it in a while, and I haven't played it in a while, and I forgot how much I like this game a lot. This is a co-op game about a sinking island.
Oh, yeah.
Atlantis Rising, second edition.
Sure.
This is, oh man, I really, really enjoyed it. And we actually won.
Not my favorite sinking island co-op game, but, it's good.
Forbidden Island is okay. But I like this one more than Forbidden Island.
That's fair.
And I think it's more for Forbidden Island's sake is that pandemic kind of ruined all those.
Illuminous, yeah. Sinking Island, not Forbidden Island.
Yeah, so Atlantis Rising is a phenomenal game where you're working to try to get resources, to get your, I forget what it's like, the mechanisms all built up for you can put the core in. This way your island doesn't sink, but then you have to deal with the wrath of gods. So something's sinking no matter what. Now you have to choose, depending upon how many islands have to choose. Then you have like the Forbidden Island cards in a sense where it's telling you where something is sinking. You have to use your special abilities, be like, okay, well, my leader is at that section. It's sinking. I can still use my ability and take what I needed from there. You have to be smart about how you use your library cards. You have to be smart about how you use your mystic energy to put up shields this way. Because if one island completely sinks and it gets to the center and that sinks, you lose the game. And it was tense. We got very, very close to the end. Luckily enough, we got one mechanism that would allow me to get something. So I'm like, I'm just going to put my guy way up here, get my ore, and change it to whatever we need after everybody made their exchange. Okay, we need gold. I'll change this for gold. And then we did that. Was able to everybody go there and put up the core, and we had to survive the round. We survived the round because we put a bunch of shields out in that last turn, and we got lucky. And I had a card that basically forced something to stop acting because it was like my... What is it in Pandemic? All Quiet. It was the essence of an All Quiet card. It's like, nope, that's not going to happen.
Yep, a big not today.
Not today. So yeah, no, I had a great time with this. The dice roll can be a little lucky from time to time, but I really, really enjoyed this. And that is Atlantis Rising, 2nd edition.
Yeah, this is a weird one for me because I do genuinely like it. But I also don't at the same time. Like, it has everything I enjoy in games, and it does it really well.
And it's pretty.
It's pretty. It does good components. But I've never wanted to play it. Like, every time I play it, I'm like, it's like, I don't know why it doesn't do it for me, because it has every reason to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's why it's weird for me. Like, it's just, it's not going to make my top 100 anytime. Yeah. Probably not even
I don't even know it will make my top 100 if we do another top 100 later this year. Yeah. I enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah. I like the game, and I own the game. It's down there somewhere. Right. But I enjoy playing it. It's weird, like you said. I own it, but it just doesn't hit the table like I thought it would. I do enjoy it, and I'm probably going to keep it. It's on this side.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you had... Oh, there it is. Cool. It's like some Juicy Fruits, another island game. Yeah. I like Juicy Fruits better.
Well, Juicy Fruits is a Euro, and you would prefer...
Juicy Fruits to my wife. I bet she would dig this.
Yeah, Juicy Fruits really good.
Yeah. Next time you come over, if my wife is willing to play a game, suggest that one. Because I do genuinely think she would fall in love with it. But if I suggest it, it's an instant no.
Well, I don't blame her.
I sold it to you. Like, I was the one who...
Rising Sun win. It's coming sometime soon. Main thing is right now we're trying to dent our shelf of shames.
Yeah, this will be Illuminous. This is your inside joke since you join us a lot and you're awesome. If you see it right there where it is at the moment, right there, okay, it's still on the shelf of shame. So anytime you watch our episode, if it's right there, you'll know.
The next He's talking about you.
Oh.
Rising Sun.
Oh, Rising Sun. Wait, which one was I pointing at?
You were looking at Tsukiyumi Full Moon Down.
Tsukiyumi. That's one. Yeah, I do need to play it. One of these years.
Rising Sun, where is it? It's down there.
Yeah, that's why we don't see it. The next one I want to talk about was a game that I have been like really, really hoping that you would play. Mm-hmm. And we finally got a chance to play it.
I know what this
was. It's a big group.
Yep.
I had a friend who was visiting from out of town, and I've spoke about him in previous episodes.
Oh, okay, no.
And we had a game group of 7 people at my house. So my wife was playing, and my son was playing, and my friend was playing, and we had a bunch of my regulars. We had 7 people, and we played Game of Thrones Oathbreaker. Oh, man. Oh, man. This is so good.
No.
And it's a simple game, too. So, yeah... you don't really have a hidden role. Like, your role is clear. Like, I was Ned Stark,
Yeah. And so you got executed in the first round.
I was a target of a lot of things. But here's the thing.
That's because you're playing a social deduction game.
Well, so it's not so much social deduction as it is just like kind of like hidden objective.
Yeah.
More so. Like, so, possible traitor. Because here's the thing. We played with 7 players. So that means that there was 4 cards, 4 loyalists, and... Oh, I'm sorry. 4 loyalists... No, 4 conspirators, 3 loyalists. You play one few... Or the same number as number of players. And the reason that matters is because the king, who was our friend Jim, of course, he's the beard of knowledge. He was the king. And he wanted to play that role. You play asymmetrically, and the king really does have very interesting roles in the game. And all the players, they are secretly either against him or for him. And here's the thing, with 7 players, there's 6 players who get these loyalist or conspirator cards, and then there's one that's hidden as a hidden player.
Yeah.
And that will either add to the conspirator, or the chaos track, or the order track at the end of the game. Basically what happens is everyone on top of that has their own little hidden objective where they're trying to get these cubes of different colors, and you do it by either completing or failing missions. Depends on the mission, of course. So like I might bring order to King's Landing, and I might get a couple power tokens, which are the cubes, which are just gold ones, and then that would be towards my objective. But each character, like Ned Stark, for example, he has the ability to discard like any 2 or 3 cubes, and I choose a player, and then they immediately either at that point choose to draw 2 cards or add 4 to the chaos track.
Okay.
Because they could betray me right away, which is an interesting decision, right?
Yeah.
And so in that game, spoilers of what I was actually a loyalist. Like 100.
Shocking.
Surprising.
Shocking.
Right. However, my wife, she was a conspirator and had everyone in the game convinced that she was the most loyal of loyal. Like, and that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
There was not a shred of doubt in anybody's mind that she was not. She was the de facto loyalist as far as anyone was concerned. So when I gave her that ability, I looked at Jim and I was like, "Sir, my liege, what am I, like, I want to choose a player. Who do you trust in this game to draw the cards?" And he said, "Stacy, absolutely." So I let her draw the cards. And she could have just went, "Oh, I'm going to go chaos right now,"
Yeah.
Because she was the chaos, but they were already destroying us. And it was really interesting. So basically, every mission, you're going to be playing at least 2 cards. You can play up to 3 or 4, depending on how many you have in your hand. Mm-hmm. And they will either have symbols that matter for that. It's either like a crow, a crown, or swords that matter for the mission. Or there will be skulls. And there's a lot more skull cards in the deck than most anything else.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a -1 point for every skull, +1 point for every symbol that matches the mission. Simple as that. If you have more of the symbol for the mission than the number of skulls, it succeeds. Anybody who is on it gets the success bonus. Otherwise, the chaos marker will move up. Okay. It's really simple how it works. But of course, everything's mixed up. And after every round of missions, there is a chance where the king gets to put his decree on different characters on whether he thinks they're loyal or a conspirator. And then that will have also effects that matter to that player. So he put on one of our friends that they will not, or they will only be able to play 1 card per mission.
Okay.
And so you get to see these missions play out. And some missions have extra things, like they might deal random cards to other missions.
Oh, okay.
Some might be like a huge, like, weird penalty if it fails, but then you also get some of the cubes that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. So long story short, if you complete your hidden objective and you are on the winning side at the end of the game, then you win. You're one of the winning players. None of us won. And normally I would hate that in a game. But the way everything happened when Stacy was revealed as a conspirator, the look of complete shock went over Jim. He was like, "No, you betrayed me." And then we all thought about it. We're all like monstrous people in Game of Thrones. Nobody's supposed to win.
Yeah.
Like, I have never been so happy of just a complete ridiculous outcome where we were all hiddenly on these teams, and none of us, like, trusted each other enough to allow anybody to get the winning situations. Because anybody who was on the Chaos team, which they handily beat us, they never completed their objectives. And anybody who was on the the Loyalist team, who did complete their objectives, didn't matter because they were on the losing side. It was so great. It was it's now one of my favorite deduction games. Like, it was so smart how it worked. Both sides were interesting on that. It created great moments. Everybody who got into the theme, even the people who didn't see Game of Thrones in our group, still liked the game.
Like your son.
Yeah, my son has never seen it, but he still liked the game a lot. It was fun to kind of justify. It's like, my lord, I will not be able to assist with any of these missions. I'm sorry. Which one are you okay with me penalizing? Because I cannot help this. And you can purposefully act like you have like bad cards in your hand and throw everybody else. It's so fun. So fun.
Yeah, so Illuminous was saying he's waiting on Blood on the Clock Tower. That's his best deduction hidden roll. I mean, those both sound fine. It's just they're not something I enjoy playing. There's one game that I've really enjoyed doing that with, and that's Deception Murder in Hong Kong.
Yes. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Like, it's more akin to Deception than it is... Oathbreaker was more akin to that than any other...
No, you basically described the Resistance to me.
But this, like, there's so much agency that the players have, where it's like, it doesn't matter, like...
Or whatever
if you figure people out or not.
The medieval version of it. Avalon, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, Avalon. Yeah, no, I get that Resistance. Resistance is really just cut and dry. You either do or you don't.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I get it, but it's just, it's one of those things that just, it doesn't... It's like trying to get you to play, like, Arkham Horror or something or another.
Sure. Well, I like Arkham.
You like...
I don't like Eldritch.
Yeah, well, Eldritch Horror, I'm talking about, like, just Arkham Horror in general, but...
No, I get it.
Eldritch Horror plays just like Arkham Horror. I don't...
No.
Well, not third edition.
Third edition, yeah.
Yeah, third edition does something different.
I liked Arkham because of the absurdity. Eldritch was just bland. But, no, I get it.
It's the same
thing. I get
thing.
The comparison. What I'm saying is that...
just one was in Arkham and the other was in the world.
This is one of those examples that I do think you would enjoy, personally.
Yeah, that's like I said. There's only a third edition. Yeah, it is different. The Arkham Horror second edition and Eldritch Horror are basically the same thing. Just one's in the city and the other one's in the world.
You're still closing. Let's not get into this right now. I could be very passionate about.
Yeah, I know
about that, but I do think that if you ever gave this a shot, I think you would be surprised by it because I think it's more like Deception than it is like most of the others.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not something that's on my radar or I'm interested in.
I get it. I don't think I'll be able to convince you, but I think that if we were playing in...
Trust me, I got like all that shelf over there to play.
But I do think that if we so happen to be playing this in a group and you're like, all right, I think that of all the deduction games, this is one that you should give a shot to.
Yeah. All right, moving on to my second game that I'm going to talk about. Well, second on my list, not my second game. My number 2 is a worker placement game that we played. And it was the first game we played on Saturday morning. And it actually intrigued me with what it was doing.
The first one we played.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
Manhattan Project, Enemy Empire.
Yeah.
Or Energy Empire.
Empire. That sounds like how we played it.
Yeah, exactly.
Enemy Empire. Oh, absolutely.
No, I actually really...
Worker placement. Darn it!
Worker placement is one of my favorite mechanisms of all time. And that's funny because we're talking about worker placement games.
Right, you will.
But this one was intriguing. What's sad was that people didn't really get their expansion until someone swooped in to save it because Minion Games and that whole situation.
Yeah.
But I really dug this game, and if I find a copy in the wild that's not super expensive, I'll probably pick it up because I liked what it did. Sure. My only complaint, and I understand why they did it, was that everything was cardboard, and this way you could see the stacking. But it's just like, just make it a little different because I would get my people in Energy confused because they're the same.
And that was also the first question I asked. Was like, why are all these pictures different for these characters? Do they have a different ability? It's like, no. Just art.
No. And it's the same size. It's like, if you're going to do tokens, maybe make the workers square and make the energy, the rectangle that was there. This way, you have a little difference, and you can still see the stacking mechanism part of it. Because the way it works is like if someone goes there, they only have to spin their worker. But if I went to one spot and you wanted to go to it, you needed to spend a worker and an energy to go there. And if someone else wanted to use that spot, they needed to spend a worker and 2 energy to go there. Which and I like that a lot. I thought that was quite interesting. No one's ever really blocked out of a spot. They just have to produce their energy. And I like the way that you can use oil to give yourself energy because... hey, it's a resource that you use all the time, but then once you start getting actual dice into the game for your energy, the blue dice, the red dice, the yellow die, and because it was blue, brown, black, and it's all different energy. So the brown was it was yellow.
It was yellow,
green,
brown, brown,
no red, black.
Yep.
So black was coal, like you were burning coal for energy. Brown was you're burning oil for energy, and you could only use it for that round if you turned in oil drums. You could have nuclear power, which was the yellow. Yellow, blue, black, and green stayed with you.
Yes.
Whereas the brown ones, they had to be used that turn.
Right.
They all had their same thing. Some were really more powerful than others. Like the green one gave you a lot of energy. However, the pollution it gave you was nuclear. Yeah. And so nuclear was
always nuclear. Yeah. You couldn't not get nuclear waste from rolling
And the thing is, nuclear is actually harder to clear out because you would have, when you do a recycle action, it allows you to recycle a token. If you had a normal pollution token, you can just get rid of it. But if you had a nuclear, you had to flip it to its other side to make it normal pollution, and then you had to spend another recycle action to take rid of it. So there was like a spot on the board that gave you a 2 recycle action. You could either get rid of 2 normal pollution or 1 nuclear pollution.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting because nuclear is harder to get rid of.
It absolutely
radiation.
Is, yeah.
So I thought it had a lot of fun little things that it did. The worker placement aspect was neat. I like the different buildings, the different achievements, I guess you could say, for the end of the game. Gives you different victory in game scoring. And it was actually a really close game. I think there was like a 12-point difference between first and last place of a 4-player game. I barely won by like 3 points or something like that.
Wasn't I second?
No, you were last.
I was last.
You were 88. I was 100.
Yeah, that's right.
It played phenomenal. Like I said, if I find this out in the wild and was able to pick up a copy, I'm going to. It was that good.
And then Illuminous, bringing up Blood on the Clock Tower. Yeah, Blood on the Clock Tower does look interesting to me. I do want to try it. Is there a print and play? If you happen to know, let me know. I know you play it on Tabletop Sim.
Yeah.
But as far as Manhattan Project Energy Empire, it did a lot of really smart stuff. What I liked about it, what I thought was really interesting, is the fact that energy can only be used to bump up certain things.
Yeah.
But then your workers were what you actually had to send out.
Yep.
But then the buildings that you got,
you can use your energy for.
Yeah, you could use energy or workers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that alone was a really interesting choice that I started realizing after a while of playing it. I was like, wow, I want to send out my workers one at a time and get the most efficiency out of them. I don't want to use them for the buildings. But then if I'm only using energy for the buildings, I'm really limiting myself
on
as the
spots.
workers.
Yeah,
because you can't send out more than one worker on a spot to count as that.
Well,
that was such a cool choice.
And the big thing about it with you too is that you kept deciding just roll 1 die for energy. It started to hurt you towards the end of the game, whereas I bumped up my energy like in the beginning of the game. I didn't go for workers till towards the end.
And then also the big difference is, even though I was still fairly close, even though I came up in last place, my whole board was almost completely eradicated. Like, it was full of radiation.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just not even going to try and make a healthy environment. I don't care if my people survive at this point.
Yeah.
I want to try and go for these end games.
Yeah.
And I had easily more end game points than anybody else.
Yeah, and it still put you...
It still put me last because I was so far behind during the game.
Well, because you're bored, if you have it complete, you're not getting points out of that. Yeah. So you get a point for every clean spot on your board. Plus, there's 3 sections at the back end of if you got a column, and they're all clean, it eventually can get you up to 6 extra points.
But that wasn't the reason I lost. What really lost was that have like those
but I'm
cards
saying,
that
but there
triggered throughout the game.
Yeah,
that was really the big part, and that was also interesting because Normally, I don't like that in games either, where it's like, oh, a random event. It's not random. You can look
at it, and see what's coming up. There was a point where our mutual friend Gamehead Geek looked at one. He was like, oh god, and he started clearing his pollution. So every one of us at the board was like, nope, we know what's coming up. And we started clearing our pollution. And you're just like, I'm screwed.
No, because I had so much like radiation and pollution. I was like, I'm gonna look just to see if he's bluffing. Nope. It's like you get heavily penalized for I think what it was is every pollution token flips to nuclear side.
Yeah.
To 3, and you guys all had no tokens on your board. And
I had 2 tokens on my. I had 2 tokens on my entire board. One was pollution. One was an oil drill.
I was like, I'm just gonna eradicate everything right now, or radiate everything right now.
Yeah.
So that way, nothing can flip from pollution to radiation because that's all
what I have. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. It was so fun. That was a really great game.
I really enjoyed it. It was nice. It was our first game too, and we had a good time with it.
It was a great way to start.
Yeah.
The next game I want to talk about was a game that you and I played. Speaking of friendly themes of Game of Thrones and pollution, let's talk about Murder.
Oh, this is yes, that's the reason why I didn't put it on my list, because I knew it was going to be on yours.
It's a simple card game.
Oh, so good.
Nice and dark. The idea is that you are inviting people into your home. The richest innkeeper is the winner.
Yeah.
It plays nice and quick. Plays over a series of rounds where you deal some people who come to your inn, and you either bribe them to become part of your team, which you have to pay them every turn.
Though I do have one complaint about it, and we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Yep. And then you can also use them for their specialties, or you can build annexes, which is interesting. So you play a card face up as an annex, which you have to. Every card has a rank on it. It's anywhere from 0 to
2 or 3. Yeah.
Everything from 0 to 3. I think zeros are really only the peasants or whatever that would just come into there, and everything else.
Newsboys were 0 as well.
Which ones?
Newsboys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so all of them, the rank is how many other cards you have to discard to play them, which is a simple idea.
Yeah.
But of the 4 actions, all of them work that way. So if you play them as an annex, you have to discard that many.
Yeah.
If you want to recruit them to your team, you have to discard that many. If you
Not necessarily discard, but you have to play so many cards.
Right. That's how many cards you have to play. And then if you want to, kill them, unfortunately sometimes it happens if you want their money.
Yeah.
Then also you have to discard that number of cards, and then also you can't have bodies lying around, so you got to bury them too.
It's a very dark theme, but
it is a very dark theme. Good, and the art is pretty creepy too.
Yeah.
But
another game that I'm going to pick up a copy of.
Each of the different character types have an affinity. So, for example, you might have a priest who's burying people is kind of his thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you play at those cards to do the action, then they go back to your hand. You just don't discard them. Simple as that, right? But then of course you don't want to spend all your time getting this big team, because at the end of every round they cost you a coin. So it costs a lot of money at the end of every round. So you don't want to waste your time doing that.
Yeah, because you got to keep no matter how many are in your hand, you got to pay them.
And you only get 2 actions on your turn.
Yeah.
So that's not that many.
Yeah.
So you want to get them out of your hand. You want to use them for their abilities when necessary, but you also don't want to have a huge team of people you have to pay off every round. There's a really cool balance in how these all do. Yeah,
exactly.
All of the annexes have their own special abilities. Some will be end game stuff. Some will be
and they can hold so many bodies.
They can each hold a number of bodies equal to its rank. So if I build a 2 rank annex, I can hold 2 bodies. There will be police officers.
That was my complaint.
Yeah, that was a fair complaint. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But when those come out, then, at the end of that, if you have bodies lying around, then you got to discard them, and then you're going to get penalized because you have to bribe off the officer. It's a really tongue-in-cheek, but it's a very dark theme.
Yeah, yeah.
And I get why some people might not like about it. But talking about that complaint, the one that you have, is that those cards are not clearly marked as to when police officers come up.
The only way you can notice it's a police officer is that because they got little pistols on the corner, and they don't have special abilities in a sense.
Right.
So we looked through the rule book, and it never explains that part of it. The only reason we
maybe we missed it, but I don't think.
Yeah, no, we both looked through it and we didn't see it. So, But yeah, it's just that when the if someone's in the hotel and you have bodies that are not buried, something happens. But you also can recruit them, and they're
good at killing people.
Yeah, they're your best shooters.
Yeah, it's so demented. It's so dark. I like it a lot, and I like how my favorite part about that is that you own certain rooms, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the round, everybody who's still alive, they're like, "Hey, thanks for the room," and they give you a coin.
Yeah.
Only one. It's like, oh, okay.
But then there's some abilities that allow you to own multiple rooms. So, like in a 2-player game, we had 5 rooms in total, 3 random, and then 2 per player, or 1 per player. Yeah. And then we could start putting stuff out there. But there's another card that allows you to put room service tokens out there. Yes. So if anybody stays in that room, you get paid for that as well.
Right, exactly. Just by going in there.
Yeah, and so it gets to a point when you do something like that with the room service, it's like, well, he's gonna kill or take the guy that's in my room. This way I don't get a coin. So if I put the room service on this one, because if he might not recruit this guy, I'm still getting paid no matter what.
Exactly. No, it's if you're okay with that dark theme, which I get why, if you're not cool, I get it.
It's fine.
But I'm okay with demented themes. I like horror movies. I like all that stuff. That doesn't bother me. This game was really fun. Yeah, no, it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. More players though.
Yeah, I heard it plays better with less crowds. Like the solo version of it is really good. Playing it 2 players is really good from what we know. But I just heard that it's better like with smaller play groups, just because of how quick
it is. Yeah, I can believe that.
All right.
You and me were knocking out rounds every within a minute.
Hey, it took us about 30 minutes, and that's with reading the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, the last song, well, that tells you what my number 1 game is. My number 1 game that I want to talk about that I've played is Vagrant Song.
Speaking of songs.
Yeah, so this probably is going to jump up there on my favorite games played. I played the first scenario twice. You and me worked out the rules and stuff like that. Yeah. Figured out we still missed some stuff, like the rituals and stuff like that.
Well, that wasn't that we didn't know the rules on that. There was one rule that at first we were like, no, like we're playing that wrong.
Yeah.
But then it made sense once we clarified it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rituals we just completely neglected.
We ignored them.
We remembered them.
Yeah.
But then we completely forgot as soon as the game started.
Yeah. But I think honestly the acrylic stuff is going to be the next big thing. Yes. Because Sorcerer Arena does it. This one does it. Yep. Both do it very well from what I've seen. Vagrant Song's more on the creepy side.
I wouldn't say it's creepy. I mean, dude, I like the art on that a lot.
Yeah, I love the art, but like the first hint, which is what they call the ghosts in those games.
Sir, how dare you use that language on our podcast?
Has an exposed spine.
Yeah, it's cartoony.
Yeah.
It's not.
No. Yeah, I like the style of it. I love the 20 style, like the old timey cartoons. Mm-hmm. I love what's going on here. It's scenario based. In fact, I just played it recently again with some friends of ours that we did like the Harry Potter. We're doing like little campaigns here and there, the same ones I do initiative with. Yeah. We played this one. And we liked it, and I actually got to see like what the camping phase does, and storing and saving and stuff like that. It made so much sense, and things that you can do. So, being able to have these rewards at the end of the game can give you good things, ability during the camp phase to move on to the next scenario. And it does something like Initiative does. Whether you win or lose, you just read different moments, and you keep going on through the chapter, the campaign. So there's different things that are going to happen. Luckily, we won both times, but I will say it is lucky at times because you have bones. Mm-hmm. If you're playing it as a campaign with people, you need to have a good mix of characters. Yeah. You need someone that's really good with investigating. You need someone that's really good for fighting. You need
standard dungeon crawl style.
Yeah, it's the dungeon crawl campaign style, but way it works and what it does, and the fact that it's so different compared to some of the stuff out there for like these campaigns, dungeon crawl style games. Mm-hmm. Your vagrants fighting on a hobo train or jumping trains and stuff like that, fighting something that's going on. You don't know what the big story is just yet, but yeah, it is. It's phenomenal. I have a really good time with it, and every scenario is different. You have different rules. So we realized like there's a round tracker. There could be a scenario where you have to meet some certain rounds before you lose or win or whatever. Whereas in some scenarios, it's just there because if one of the tokens hits a certain point, you read a story event. Right. And it just I love what it's doing. You're basically just trying to make the bad guys remember their humanity, and you're reading stories throughout the game. It's really good. I really like it. I love the little stuff like the hobo code. The Haints is the name of the bad guy. Yep. You're not beating them up, or no, you're not punching them. You're busting them up. You're not healing. You're patching up. I like that kind of stuff. And then you're not rolling dice. You're rolling bones.
Yeah. No,
so
a lot of the things that it does is a perfect example of what you can do with a dungeon crawl and not have to do the same old generic fantasy dungeon crawl.
Yeah, exactly.
Illumina says, I like more acrylics. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Ever since we started seeing those pop up more, it has all of the benefits of miniatures with the addition of really nice color. And
in the standee, like inexpensive, like a cardboard standee. It's a little bit more pricey, but it's phenomenal. They look really good.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because it's that eye popping. We talk about it all the time. What's the one that's going to grab eyes at tables? This one will have it. It's got a unique style. Those acrylic standees really stand out. So for my number one, it's Vagrant Song.
Cool. Yeah, Vagrant Song was fun. What I liked, my favorite part about Vagrant Song, and I didn't like it as much as you did, but I did like it. Was those number tokens that handle events and how they could go anywhere.
Yeah, they could go on around.
They can go on the breaking part, like whenever you break the big bad guy. They could be on parts of the board where when you just go on them, you encounter them. They can go in the token bag. A random event happen.
Yeah.
All of that was really smart, and I like that a lot.
And the thing is like it's got two sections to read. When you're doing a scenario, when you're pulling those numbers, it's the event basically on the scenario, but then you also have stuff in the back of the rule book that you can read for the moments in the story. So I love what they're doing with that one.
Right. Very good. And the last one that I wanted to talk about was a game that is considered the spiritual successor to Quacks of Quedlinburg. It's a very different game, but it's by the same designer, follows the same alliteration, Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is Taverns of Tiefenthal, which, so I was always on the fence about. I ended up getting a copy of it because I heard that it's good, but then, of course, I like the simplicity of Quacks of Quedlinburg, so I was like, okay, this is another thing. And then I looked at how it played, and I was like, ooh, this is a lot more moving parts. Like, it's not streamlined as much as,
like
Quacks is. Yeah. But then I was like, okay, we'll give it a try. We tend to like this. And everything it does does a lot of things differently than a lot of games. And each of those choices was a really neat thing. First off, it's kind of a deck builder.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's a dice drafting thing.
Yeah.
And so this does a good job of higher roll is better, technically, sometimes, depending on your player, right?
Yeah.
So, I probably want a higher number. But since we're drafting, if I roll bad, who cares, right? I'm going to still get picks from you guys.
Yeah.
So.
And if someone rolls, decent numbers, hey.
Yeah. And everyone gets decent numbers, right?
But the thing I like about that, and when we're talking about, the dice drafting, you sometimes want low numbers. If you want it to trigger certain things, it's like...
Right.
Man, those 3 1s. All right, I know at least I'm getting a 1 over here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's right, because your patrons start off only activating on ones and twos.
And then your beer also on ones.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like 1s and 6s could be your beer, right? And then, but every card that is not a patron in there adds more to different benefits. So you might have a barback who can add 1 to 1. Or you might have a barmaid who lets you get one of your own specialty dice that only you get, and it doesn't even get drafted. Yeah,
you get to use it no matter what.
Yeah, and then other ones might let you get more bonus for every 1 or 6 that you assign, gets you more beer. Or ones might be just added on beer by itself for free, but it doesn't combo like the other ones do. And that's just the bonuses that you can get as cards. You can also get a table, which that table alone.
Speaking of which, I gotta get a score from you because I messed up on it.
Yeah, I'll get that to you in a bit. That table alone is one of my favorite cards in deck building now because
it allows you to get another patron out.
And another patron guaranteed. But here's the thing: what I liked about it, why it was so fun, is that in other deck builders, there's some that are just worth points, right? So in Dominion, for example, you get the cards that let you draw extra cards. That gives you a possibility of more options, yes. This guarantees you more options.
Yeah.
Because when you get out the table, you're still going to keep drawing until you get a patron.
Yeah.
That's a guarantee.
Which means you can get more cards out there. So, like, if you don't have a lot of patrons and you have, like, a lot of bar wenches, a lot of... And you know what my favorite thing with Taverns of Tiefenthal was?
What was that?
The upgrading ability.
Yes. Everything on that board
can upgrade it. But what I liked about it is the tables. Like, if you have multiple tables, you can deduct the tables
for your deck and upgrade that. Which lets you get the nobles.
Yeah.
Nuance number 1 that I really like. Nobles are where the big points are, right?
Yeah.
But they're patrons, and they're not as good as most patrons. It's a 2 die gets you 2 coins. Okay, whatever. But all nobles stick together. Yeah. All nobles stick together. So as you're drawing through your cards and you're getting nobles and nobles and nobles, then you're going to be getting... They all just stick together, so it doesn't matter. You're never going to have more than one spot that has nobles. So that's a cool nuance. Secondly, the dice drafting makes a lot of sense because it's different for most, because a 1 and a 2 might be preferable for me, where a 3 and a 4 might be for you. Thirdly, every part of that board, which at first I was like, I hate the way this board put pieces together. No, it works fine. Yeah. Because you have so many cool things that you could do with it. 1, you can go into your treasure chest, which is either 1 coin, or if you upgrade it, it's 3 coins.
Oh, no. The treasure chest can hold up to 5 if you upgrade it.
Oh, then you also have, like, the things that can hold beer, or that which normally hold up to 2, where you upgrade it, holds up to 5.
That's the chest. The what you're talking about is the lockbox to the cashier.
The cashier's lockbox. But then you also have the person who's sitting there, which lets you get automatic money, either like 1 or 3 coins or whatever, if you upgrade them. You have a dog, which if you upgrade, you get another barmaid, which is on automatic one of your dice.
One of your dice, yep, every round.
Yeah, and then nuance number 5 or whatever I'm on right now, when you buy a card, it goes on top of your deck. And the order that you buy it in determines what order it comes out.
Yeah.
So, it's deck building, technically. But you get to pre-plan your next turns by the upgrades that you get from the patrons that you've paid.
And you talked about the nobles, right? Where they stack on top of each other? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this game has so many cool moving parts that you don't see in any other game.
Like, so if you like Quacks of Quedlinburg, I say you should give this one a try. But if you want something that is a little bit more gamery than Quacks, this is the game for you.
Absolutely. Like, I get the argument. It's like, oh, you can just have a bad pull in Quacks. Yep, you can. If you get a bad pull, that's because you planned a bad pull. Because
you decided what went on that deck.
Yes, exactly. And you can modify the dice. You also have the monastery where you're moving your token around, right? It looks like a school or a scoreboard, but it's not. Only your cards are scoring at the end of the game. This is just a board where as you go around in the circle, you get bonuses like extra cards. You get to move on other things. You get to upgrade stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay.
What's funny about this one, though, is that you didn't do well in this game.
No, I did pretty bad. But
there was a 20-point difference between first and last place. But third place, there was a 10-point difference between first.
I did pretty bad in this, and I'm okay with that. It just, what it did was so cool. All of the moving parts were really fascinating.
Yeah.
Everything you did had a really interesting choice. It was way more strategic than I thought, but it wasn't... At first, I thought it was going to be completely convoluted. It wasn't. T-Cheth, forgive me for, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it said, darn nobles, they ruined my noble land. That's fair. But no, the Taverns of Tiefenthal, I cannot recommend this enough. If you liked Quacks and you wanted a same flavor but a lot more option, a lot more strategy, this is your game. I'm very happy to have this in my collection. And now, this is one of those games where, lately I've been finding games every once in a while where I play and I'm like, man, that was really solid. And I want to play it like 4 or 5 more times.
Like, to really see how you...
Yeah, like I talked about Inuit. That was one that I've been playing the mess out of. I played. There was one a few weeks ago that I played and I was like, oh, wow. Like,
oh, wow?
Like, I don't know. Oh, wow. But I don't remember what the game was off the top of my head, but I know that there was one that...
Someone's got cats on his mind.
Recently. Me, wow. There's just these games that I've been really hitting lately that have been just completely fascinating to me lately.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. Taverns of Tiefenthal. seriously go find a copy of.
Yeah, this one was really good. I really enjoyed playing it. I was just thinking about it like it's one of those games that is just kind of like, man, that was good. I want to play it again to see how better I do or how worse I do. Did I like just stumble into a really good?
Return to Dark Tower. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the other one I've been like. I kind of want to just like play that.
Yeah, I want to play that one some more. I want to try some of the new or the different stuff. Yeah. Maybe on one of my picks, I'll pick it again. This way we can do with the minis this time, and because sometimes you just want to play a game that's really fun. I just got into Space Base, liking that somewhat similarity to Catan. Space Base is so good. I think everyone in our group owns Space Base.
Yes, John declared that won our dice game.
Yeah. 2 dice in the entire game.
Yeah. Well, I won't spoil anything. I won't spoil everything.
Well, I know the campaigns might add more stuff later on, but I really do need to play the campaigns. But I really enjoy just the base game itself. And mind you, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 active campaign games going on right now. Probably more. I'm just not thinking of it. Yeah. And then I just picked up another one that's kind of a campaign game. I got the Viticulture expansion. That's the wine crate right there.
Yep. Stop bragging. Stop flexing.
No, whatever. But I was saying, what I like about it, it's got like a wine glass rings on it.
Yeah. When you sent us a picture of it, I genuinely thought it was real wood. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then you open it up, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. That's slightly less cool because of that. But
no, I like getting those kind of big boxes just to, save my shelf space.
Yeah, but really good choice with Space Base. Glad you enjoy it. So let's get into our topic today.
Yeah.
That was a long time of
it was almost an hour. So
yeah, we apologize if you find this is the boring part, but man, we are excited about these games, and we're
they were really good.
You about them because
we honestly, I got a lot of games played in those 3 weeks. Last time we talked about it, because I'm looking at it, it's over double digits, really.
Yeah, same here. Oh yeah, we played and a lot of Shelf of Shame stuff, and these were the top notch ones.
Yeah.
So what we do in this style of format, our compare and contrast episodes, is that we take 2 games that are in the community are compared. Mm-hmm. Sometimes based on mechanism, sometimes based on theme, sometimes based on
a designer. That kind of like you could see. Case in point, we've done Magic the Gathering and Keyforge with Richard Garfield.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so when both of these games came out, they were given that same treatment because. These games go into development for a really long time. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they both came out and they were both coined as, hey, suddenly now we have a worker placement and deck building.
Yeah.
And then the other one's like, wait a minute. So do we.
What's going on?
Hold on.
And then there was just a big old infight about like which one's better, which does it better, and stuff like that.
There was a lot of argument. So we thought we would settle it now. If you've not played either of these, hopefully our talking about it today, our compare and contrast, will highlight some of the nuances of the games and tell you if either of these are something that you would be interested in, or if not. But then, if of course we all understand it's limited money, neither of these games are cheap. I think Lost Ruins is 60 at least. I think Dune
and that's also
more.
Yeah.
And so it's worth comparing because money is money still. So and no, we're not missing it because we're going to talk about
it here in a little bit.
4 different worker placement deck building games here in a minute. So, Illuminous, thank you for the reminding, but we're
going to get into that in a minute, but the main reason is that these were the hotness. These are the ones that were getting compared. Yes. You saw it when they first came out. Oh, Dune Imperium. No, Last Ruins of Arnak.
Both of the games.
Both of them just got expansions recently, so that put them on there too.
Yep, exactly.
And so we decided it would be a good one to talk about.
Absolutely. And hopefully, like I said, if one of them piques your interest, hopefully this will decide which one you should go to. And we will voice our opinions on them near the end as well.
Yeah.
So let's delve into this.
Before we get into it, let's go ahead and talk about the 2 extra ones before we get a riot in the chat room.
Our friend brought up a good point. He was like, "Yo, you're missing a third one, and that's Endless Winter." And we have a mutual friend who backed it on Kickstarter, and he brought up a really good point.
And I got the pre-order for it myself.
Pre-order, yeah. Mm-hmm. So Endless Winter is another one that was developed around the same time as these other 2. However, both CGE and Legendary Direwolf, they're both really established.
Legendary is the movie company.
The movie
Direwolf is the game. Yeah.
Direwolf is the
game
developer.
Yeah.
They're both very much established.
Yeah.
And so they don't have to use fundraising in order to do that.
Crowdfunding,
so it looks like it, and it appears to me that they were both developed and created the games around the same time, but these two had the advantage. There we go. These two had the advantage of being able to just go straight into publication and printing, whereas Endless Winter, which is the one that came out around the same time.
Yeah, and they're still working on it.
They're still developing it or printing it.
And the big thing about that one, too, is that because they just basically set up these two, then came out with it, and already had expansions planned, but they didn't have to release them right away. Whereas Endless Winter, it's one of those crowdfunding things, is they're trying to get everything out at once because, it's the reward sort of situation. That hurt it, too.
Yes, exactly. Plus on top of the lockdowns. And
and then you've got COVID going on, and then the shipping situation, and a lot of it, like the printing stuff, where they print everything, was shut down for quite a while. So it's taken them a bit. I'm looking forward to it. It's funny when we're doing like this compare and contrast between Dune Imperium and Lost Ruins of Arnak. If we had Endless Winter, I think it would be between Lost Ruins of Arnak and Endless Winter, because they seemed a lot more closer than these two.
Yeah, most certainly, absolutely. And yeah, they are different. We noticed that. I don't know if they're different enough to have both. Like, if I bought one of these, I know which one I would.
Yeah.
And I don't think if I owned one, if I'd want to own the other one. But that's just me.
It's also become to personal taste, and we'll get into it when we do the compare and contrast part of it, because one type of gamer might like one over the other.
Right. So now I want to talk about the other one that is kind of like, I brought up 4, and that's because Endless Winter also had the same repertoire of coming around near the same time. Also a deck builder worker placement. But there was a deck builder worker placement game that came out, I want to say 2012.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. I'll double check it here in a bit. It's a Freedom and Freeze game that like hardly has anybody talking about it. But at the time, from what I knew, I do believe that when it came out, it was the first worker placement deck building game. Because
might be. I never played it, so I can't tell.
And this is Copycat by Freedom and Freeze. Came out with 2F Spiel, and here in the United States it was printed by Rio Grande Games. Mm-hmm. The premise of it is that you're running a political campaign, which honestly I think is a great premise for a deck builder, really, because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
is running a political campaign. It's pretty loose as to what it actually talks about, but really, what the whole premise of Copycat is that Freedom and Freeze took some of the best concepts of different games and combined them to make this wholly unique game. For example, the worker placement part of it is entirely like the premise of Agricola, where the worker placement spots come out, and through every round, a new one comes out. That is now a new available spot.
Yeah.
Through different sections of it, you shuffle up packs of cards and you deal them out on the board random. That's the worker placement part. The deck building also uses kind of like a card river, like through the ages.
Yeah.
Where they become cheaper the further down you go, or I'm sorry, more expensive the higher up you go.
Yeah.
But there is still places to do it. But you use this, and the deck building is more akin to like a Dominion kind of style.
Yeah.
But you're using your cards in conjunction with that to send out your workers, get the right funding, get victory points sometimes. Any spots that aren't used throughout the round become more beneficial, so you put out more victory point tokens. It's a really silly theme. It makes fun of a lot of like satire and stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it works really, really darn well. I was actually really impressed with it when I played it, because it really did exactly what it was trying to do. It copied parts that it was homaging, like really great games, and putting together like the best pieces from that. And so there was like an expression in German, which is what the original title is called, but it's basically succeeding on the from the feathers of others, or something like that. Or like the bird can fly from the feathers of others, or something like that. And that's the whole premise of it. Is it's straight up just we're copying these ideas and putting them together in a new game, and therefore, it creates a new success. And it was an awesome game. So out of all these games that we're talking about today, that's the only one I own. So take that as you will. I'm very passionate about it. I own
2.5
of these. Daniel owns both of these.
Yeah.
So he's already going to like both of them better than I'm going to like either of them.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Which is interesting because when I first played Lost Ruins of Arnak, I liked it. But it was okay.
Sure.
I actually picked it up because I caught it on a deal.
Right. There was... Okay, so my initial play for both of them. Let's delve into it. Let's talk about the first time we played and how we enjoy now.
Yeah.
The first time I played either of them, I didn't necessarily like either of them.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they were okay. I get what they were doing. I didn't particularly like either of them. At the time, if I had a preference, it was Lost Ruins of Arnak because I prefer the exploration theme.
Yeah.
Now, full honesty, I know nothing about Dune.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know the IP. I don't know the backstory of anything. So a lot of the stuff that they reference, like Spice and whatever those
Solari.
Solari, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I like the theme. And I do tend to like less sci-fi. I like adventure a lot.
Yeah.
So I probably like this. Adventure Island, that's the game we were talking about earlier. So I like the theming of Lost Ruins of Arnak better.
Mm-hmm.
I also tend to like non-IP games as well, a little bit more. So if I had to pick between the two, at my initial play, I would have picked Lost Ruins still.
Yeah, for me, it would have been Dune Imperium. I am tied to the theme. More so now than ever because with my dad passing away, he was a big fan of Dune. And so it gives me more of a nostalgia, more of a connection to it. But the first time we played them, I liked what Lost Ruins of Arnak did. And I really liked what Dune Imperium did because I did feel the theme coming out of Dune Imperium because... One thing about it, for sure, the difference between these two is one is a straight Euro game, whereas one is a hybrid between Euro mechanisms and thematic. So a lot of people call it Euro trash because it's a Euro and Ameritrash. I love the combat aspect of it because, again, I'm used to Dune. My dad read the books when I was younger. We watched the old school movie. We were talking about getting excited to go see the new movie when it was going to come into theaters, and then COVID happened and stuff like that. Right. So he did get to watch it. I haven't been able to watch it lately or yet myself. The new movie. I've watched the old one since his passing, just because the nostalgia kind of thing, and. This one's based off the newer movie, but I'm very familiar with the theme and stuff like that. So
sure.
When going into this originally, I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. Right. I like deck building. I like worker placement. And then they put the Dune theme on it. That's cool. Bought it. I actually asked for it for Christmas. My wife made a mistake and got me the original Dune game, which I need to get played. And so she's just like, you know what, I made a mistake. I didn't read it properly. Just go ahead and order it. And so I ordered it. We played it. Yeah, now I have both. And then I got Lost Ruins of Arnak. I played it before I owned it. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it. I liked what it was doing too. And I bought this one.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question then. And I want to... So as somebody who doesn't know anything about the theming, my impression with what I got from Dune Imperium is that if you're not a gamer, if you're just a Dune fan, I don't think it's simple enough where you will enjoy your experience playing Dune Imperium. It feels too heavy.
It is a bit heavier, and it's going to be a bear for people to play. But it's kind of along the same lines as like when Wingspan. A lot of people coming over from being birders found a board game that deals with birds. When they started playing it, it was a little heavy, but it's like their favorite thing that they play now because of that. Same thing with people who are into Dune. If you're into the IP and once you want to go through that slog, it's going to be one of your favorite games. It just depends if you really want to get into board gaming that way. I wouldn't recommend it as a gateway game by any means. Out of these two, they're not simple. By any means. Lost Ruins of Arnak is slightly simpler than Dune Imperium.
Yes. Yeah, that sticks to the tried and true a little bit more thoroughly. And I remember, so as a refresher, we're watching, how to play videos and all that stuff.
Yeah, just to kind of refresh and get us...
And I remember, like, how many times that I thought, it's like, man, some of the things that Dune does is just convoluted. Mm-hmm. It's like, you have to do this, and this.
Before you can even
think about
going to that spot.
But only if you have this other token, too. It's like, wait a minute. Wow,
yeah, there is a lot going on to it. But again, if you're really into the Dune IP, you can understand that because
you're
it's
a gamer.
Because it's a warring thing. They're warring because this is the only planet, if I remember correctly, that gives spice. Let the spice flow is their like slogan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So everybody's warring over the spice, and so that's what this game is all about.
Do you feel that Dune Imperium really brings out the theme of the Dune universe?
From my understanding and from what playing, it does. It gives you that. You feel like you're playing the abilities and stuff like that because every leader has their own special ability based on the signet ring that you're using. Another one is you do feel stuff like, mind you, I've only played like the basic powers. I've looked at the other ones and they seem like what they should be compared to the thing. Now I heard this one is good, but if you play the original Dune game, you get more of the feel of the IP out of Dune because you are like 8 different factions or 6 different factions warring over the control of spice. This one gives you it more in a simplistic compared to the other game thing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering is because I want our listeners to understand that because I know so little about the theme, I'm looking at it from a non-Dune fan.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, neither of them necessarily felt thematic. I mean, Lost Ruins of Arnak doesn't really feel thematic either. But, okay. So Illuminous says also Dune Imperium is more of a filtered experience.
Yeah.
That's what I wondered. But as a Dune fan, I wonder if that really kind of scratches that itch for you. It's like, man, it's like, yeah, finally I get to play like for Oathbreaker, for example. It's like, I've played other Game of Thrones games. I don't feel like I'm in a Game of Thrones universe. Oathbreaker, I did.
Yeah, and you get that experience in Dune Imperium. Okay. Like I heard, you get it better experiences. I know there was like a Dune RPG at one point or a homebrew version of it. Yeah. You'll get a better experience doing that because you're role playing. You get it more in the original Dune game because each faction plays differently, but plays how they're supposed to play. Like some people play from the shadows, where some's all about combat, where some is all about freedom and stuff like that. So you have like the different factions to fill it. You do get it in a sense in this one, and I know they add more to it with the expansion. I haven't played the expansion yet, but I know they add more to it and more to the fill with that expansion.
Cool, awesome. So let's talk about. So obviously, if you're a gamer and you're a fan of Dune, this is a no-brainer. Dune Imperium it'll probably be your favorite of the two because then you get that feel
of it. I also can say like if you're not a gamer and you want to go through that slog, you'll like it because it's going to give you the Dune Imperium feel. The thing is, it's going to be a slog to learn this game. Right. It was a slog for us as experienced gamers.
Neither of these games are easy to pick up and play right away.
And Ruffians added that it's way better with the expansion.
Yes. All right. Now, is Rise of Ix, or are you talking the Explorers?
So Illuminus says Rise of Ix is pretty good. That's the expansion for Dune Imperium. Gotcha. I'm believing Ruffians may be mentioning the expansion for Dune Imperium makes it better because that's what we were just talking about.
Talking about Rise of Ix. Yeah. All right, cool. We'll talk about Lost Ruins of Arnak expansions here, or both expansions here in a bit. Which only one I've played. So
only one I've played. I own the other one. I just haven't got it to the table.
Let's talk about mechanisms first. So we talked about the theme a little bit. We'll get more into that. Let's talk about the mechanisms. Yeah. So there's 2 things that each of them both do. They both do worker placement and they both do deck building. Yep. As far as worker placement goes, both of them kind of do the same thing, which is different than almost any other game that we saw and we were reminded about it, is you have to play a card to place your workers. In Lost Ruins of Arnak, it uses vehicles as an example. You can travel by foot to all the local regions. That's easy. Or you can use a car or a boat to travel to the little further out regions that you can then explore. Or you can use airplanes to get you pretty much anywhere. Yeah, exactly. Some places need multiple of those. Yeah. Either boats or
2 boats
cars.
or 2,
And then airplanes are basically wild. Yeah. Your cards give you the vehicle, and they always have a different type of vehicle. Most of them are foot, and even the bad card, the fear cards,
they're foot.
Have a foot. Yeah. So it's not, they're not good cards in your hand. You want to get rid of them, but at the same time, you can still use them. It's still not a dead card in your hand. Yeah. And so you're able to use that. Whereas in Dune Imperium, the way it uses those cards is that each parts of the board have different symbols on it.
Yeah.
Either like a triangle or a circle or whatever, hexagon. And you use those specific cards that have those symbols on it. And again, you use those cards to send your workers out to that spot.
But here's the complication when it comes to those two games. When you're playing Lost Ruins of Arnak, it's like simple. You play a foot, you go to that foot location. If you play a car or two cars, you go to those locations, or a car and a plane, or car and a boat, or a plane and a boat, I mean. Whereas with Dune Imperium, you have to be able to have all the resources you need to go to certain locations. You need water or Solari to go to location, or you need to be at a certain point on a certain faction to go to this location. You got to pay all those resources to get it going. And so that's one of the big difference when it comes to the worker placement part of it we were talking about and seeing.
And that was one of my frustrations when I played between the two, is that it seemed a lot of the spots that you could go in Dune Imperium were very conditional. You had to have at least done a couple of things or have a certain thing ready in order to go to that spot. Whereas Lost Ruins of Arnak, it's just the vehicle, realistically.
But in all honesty, it makes sense for Dune Imperium.
Yeah.
A lot of those locations that you need to have to be in with certain factions, they're faction-controlled areas in like the books and the movies and stuff like that. So it makes sense thematically.
Yeah.
But it's understandable, like people who just playing it without knowing because it's got worker placement and deck building. It could be a little frustrating if you don't know the theme behind it. Yeah,
the backstory. Yeah, and that makes sense. And that's probably one of the reasons why it was frustrating, is because I didn't know that stuff going in. And that's fair. Yeah. So as far as worker placement goes, they both do very similar things. They're all card-driven worker placement. But I feel like Lost Ruins of Arnak is a little bit better about that.
Simpler
just
about
because the simplicity, you don't need that. And most of
the
spots as well just get you whatever.
Both of them, we noticed this too, are very icon heavy.
They are incredibly icon heavy.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, and there's... If you're not a fan of icons and stuff, then neither of these games work for you.
Yeah, because they're both very icon heavy, and you got to know what to have the icon. You got to pay attention to your reference sheet and stuff like that.
Yep. So now let's talk about the deck building aspect of it. So in Lost Ruins of Arnak, there's two different kinds of cards you're going to get in your deck. Other than the fear cards, which you talked about earlier, they're kind of like dead cards. You're going to get either items or artifacts, which makes sense throughout that. They take two different currencies.
It's serious, yep.
You have coins, which are going to give you the items, which can be anything from like special boots or a dog or whatever. And you can use those anytime you go through your deck.
Yeah.
And the artifacts, they're a little more expensive. They take compasses, which I think are called exploration tokens.
Yeah.
But they're compasses.
Because you discover them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they are. And every time once you buy it, you're able to use its ability, but every time you play it from then, you have to discard a tablet token, which is another piece.
Yeah.
What's cool about this differently is that, yes, you do have those two different things that you are acquiring throughout the game, and they do have the different currencies, but there is the round marker in between the two decks. And so there's always going to be, I think, 6 cards out throughout the 5 rounds, and every round there's going to be more artifacts that you find, but fewer items.
And then when you get to last round, there's going to only be 1 item where everything else is artifacts.
5 artifacts, yeah. And so that evolution throughout the game is kind of interesting. And I that makes sense also to a degree, because, you're utilizing the items that you already had, or that you purchased.
To become better explorers, archaeologists.
Exploration. So it's slightly thematic, but the deck building, I've found that a lot of the cards do very simple stuff. Like you are using it either as the vehicle that we showed earlier,
or its
you're
action,
using it as its action, which is normally just get tokens or draw cards or
move up workers, or get resources,
move up on different tracks, different things like that. I found the deck building to be probably my favorite part in Lost Ruins. Whereas, let's talk about the deck building real quick
which is quite different than Lost Ruins of Arnak. First off, it's 2 distinct phases, where Lost Ruins of Arnak is either you play a card or you put your worker out by playing a card and stuff like that. That all happens on a turn. Whereas in Dune Imperium, you play your card to put your worker out. Once you're out of workers, you have to do a reveal phase. When you do a reveal phase, you reveal what's left in your hand. You can either use part of it, like, and it's the bottom section of the card. You can use it for combat for later when everybody passes, or you use it for your points. And you can get points on the board, and you can get points based on your cards. That's your buy power. I forget what it's actually called.
Like skill or something.
Yeah.
That's right. It's the blue symbol.
Yeah, it's a blue symbol, a number and a diamond. It tells you how much you get. Yeah. You use those to buy your cards. So you have like a tableau of cards,
right?
Like 5 of them. And if none of those really, or you don't have the money really for it, there is like 3 stacks of basic cards that you can use.
Right. Standard in most deck builders, if you're familiar with it.
If you can't buy it. Like both deck builders, once you buy something, it goes into your discard pile, and you won't be able to use it again until you shuffle it up.
Yep.
But yeah, so the difference is the distinct phases. You have to actually end your part of a round.
Right.
And this is a round. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you use what's left of your hand. So this one will give you buy power. This one will give you attack power, because we haven't even gotten to the attack, which we will in a little bit about the phases. But yeah, it's just, they're completely different. Lost Ruins of Arnak, it's your turn. I'm going to use this money, these coins to buy this card, or these compasses to buy this artifact over here.
Right.
Whereas in this one, is like, okay, these are the cards I left over. What do I do with it?
Exactly. And so that was one thing that I found really different about those, is that on your turn throughout Lost Ruins of Arnak, you are either deck building or you're doing one thing on your turn.
Yeah.
You can use a card to send out a worker, or you can do that, but then you can go back to sending out workers. You're just done when you're done.
Yeah.
Whereas you're right, in Dune Imperium, you have the worker phase, and then when you're done, that's when you can finally buy something and add it to your deck. You don't have that option of changing things midway, which I feel like I like in Lost Ruins a little bit more. Just because, if I see you buy something, and I'm still sending out my workers, I might want to make a change in my decision of what I was doing. It's like, oh, now that this item is out, maybe I'll actually get that now.
Yeah,
and then that'll help me.
Well,
that'll help me.
I think it works well in Dune Imperium too, because once you go into the next phase, other people can do their turn if they have the ability to do it. Because you can get a temporary worker on the board, the Mentats. You can also get an extra worker if you go up into the council seat and get the third worker. That's the only time you can do it in the game, but then now you have 3 workers rather than 2, whereas Lost Ruins of Arnak, you only have 2 workers. Right. And you can have a possibility up to 4 in Dune Imperium.
That's true.
So once that happens, and I pass, and I got to do my reveal phase and what I buy, then you could be like, okay, well, that's what he's doing in combat. Maybe I really don't want to go into combat this round because I see where he's at now.
Right.
Yep. So maybe I'll do this, and this instead, build up for the next turns. This way I can see what happens. So exactly. I like the fact of Dune Imperium doing stuff like that as well.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Yes. In that context, it does make sense. I just prefer the freedom of that myself. Now, one other thing that we found that was very similar about, yes, they're a third mechanism that nobody really talks about is that these are both resource management games.
Yeah.
And so, first off, I'm going to say, when I first played Lost Ruins of Arnak, I hated how many different tokens there were.
Yes.
There are, you have the 2 currencies, which we already talked about, coins and compasses.
Yep.
But then you have other resources. You
tablets,
have
rubies.
Arrowheads,
coins,
compasses. Like, you have all of these different sets of tokens.
5 resources in general.
Yeah, that function in different ways and for different capacities.
And then certain things can be upgraded in for certain other things, but then
right, there's a hierarchy to these. Like, they're not. It's not so much that they are different. Like, thematically, like, how am I going to trade an arrowhead and a ruby for, like, victory points and a soldier? Like, what does that make sense? It doesn't. So it has this tech tree that's on the right side, and you can upgrade your magnifying glasses and books.
Which is one of your actions, is you can do that instead. Yeah.
And so you spend the resources to do that. And a lot of the spots will get you different resources. So I might send a worker to go get me 2 rubies and a tablet where I really need an arrowhead, but I can't do that because I haven't upgraded to this spot yet because, And I hated, that was one part that was my biggest frustration with Lost Ruins of Arnak is that it didn't. Every different token that you could get has a different purpose for a seemingly nonsensical reason.
And then the big thing about it is when we're talking about that track in Lost Ruins of Arnak is that if you go up one route, like say your hourglass is one side, I mean, you could go up a different route and just the same level because your book can never surpass where your magnifying glass is.
Yes.
And you can go the different routes, and they have different reward abilities. My big thing is be like, okay, well, I got the resources for this route, go up this route, but now I got to start saving up resources to go up a completely different track, even though I have a bunch of these resources, and that's what I was buying up to for I can move up here. And so it's just like, it's a struggle how you're being smart with your resource management because the way the track switches up on you at times.
Right, exactly. Whereas realistically, you only have... Other than your fighters, which I don't consider a resource, you really only have 3 resources in Dune Imperium. That's it. Yeah. You have water, Solari, right? Solari.
That's like the coin
and
stuff.
Spice.
Yeah.
So talk about those. Like that's way simpler than like the 5, and for different.
Yeah, so Solari is basically the coins in the game. You use a lot of it to, buy things for you. You can use it to buy spice or vice versa and stuff like that.
It's the same as the coins as Lost Ruins. Sure.
And you can use it for different things too. The water is very important because, it's a very dry planet, so it's important for you to go to certain spots or to pay for certain things. The spice is what it's all about. You're trying to compete and get the control of the spice in the flow. That's why we're all here. That's why we're all fighting, and they're good for victory points at the end of the game as well. And we haven't even gotten to the victory point part of it.
We will.
But that's really all the resources are for. It's just to help you do stuff on that. Everything about this game, Dune Imperium, is leading up to the combat. You can use it for this and that, but mostly the combat is going to drive this game. The resources are there because they're there thematically, but it's more about controlling of everything. It's an area control game without an area control mechanism.
There's one area. That's it.
Yeah.
You control that one area. So which one do you prefer as far as the resource management goes?
Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, because there's less resources in Dune Imperium, it makes sense thematically, but Lost Ruins of Arnak, it's interesting, especially when you're going up that track. Now, the big thing about Vanilla Arnak and Vanilla Dune Imperium is everything in Dune Imperium makes sense for what they're driving to. Lost Ruins of Arnak makes it seem like vanilla that makes it seem like it's a not area control point salad type game, which it kind of is. But one thing in vanilla is very weighted heavier than the other part. Like, so we have a friend who really likes the combat part of it, going to fight the Guardians, using the resources to pay off the Guardians and stuff like that. In vanilla, it doesn't make sense to heavily evolved in fighting Guardians. You're basically, if you want to get your most points and have a chance of winning the game, you're playing on that hourglass and book track. That's the main mechanism in the vanilla. In fact, when we played it the first time, I think you played it beforehand, or it might have been at the same time, but I won just because I was like, you know what, I'm just going to use my resources and go up this track. That's it. That's mainly what I did, and just went all the way up, my magnifying glass up there, because if you're the first one all the way up on that track, the magnifying glass gives you like 20, 25 points or something like that, and that's a huge swing.
Right.
Whereas the monsters only give you, 5 points at a time? Something like that.
So speaking of that influence track, so that's one big track that anybody can go. There is bonuses to whoever gets to certain spots first, which is kind of cool. Yeah. That's a little cool thing.
And the thing is, the points climb too.
Has a similar thing with the influence tracks.
Yeah. And so their influence tracks is more about for the factions, the 4 different factions. If you get to a certain point, you get a victory point. If you get to a certain, I think it's like the 4th or 5th section of Dune Imperium, you get the influence over that faction. You get another victory point because you have the influence over it, but it could be stolen from you, and then you would lose a point, and that person who stole it would gain a point. And then if you're at the top of it, you've got influence of that faction. They're always going to be with you, and it does some bonus bonuses. I don't remember too much what the bonuses are doing. Some of them are more important, like for worker placement spots and stuff like that. But they each have their own certain abilities. Like some give you intrigues, which give you cards for combat fights, or where you can play during your turn, which gives you certain resources or certain abilities or other things. And then the final thing you can get out of those intrigue cards is into game scoring. So it has like different things you can do. Some give you resources. So the influence track is quite different because you're going into like the big factions and dealing with faction abilities, but it's a war game that has Euro abilities into it. So the alliances with these factions make sense. Right.
So now let's talk about the combat in each of the games. So there is technically combat in both of them, and I say technically because the way it works simply on
Lost Ruins
of Arnak is the simple version. Mm-hmm. As tiles come out and as places can be explored,
once you go over a certain line,
there's these monster tokens that go on top of them. When you go to the Guardians, you flip them over and see what resources you need to pay them off. Basically, you're bribing them. You're not actually fighting them because there's nothing to...
That's the combat.
That's the combat. That's it. Done. If you like trading stuff, like how we talked earlier about Francis Drake, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, these need these tokens for me to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And then they're worth points at the end, too.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't deal with them and you're still in that spot...
And some of them will have, like, special abilities, too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's...
And a fear card, not token.
A fear card, yes.
Which is basically a dead card, but it's not really a dead card because you can use it for, like, walking foot, yeah.
And so that's combat in Lost Ruins. There's really not much. Now, you know combat more in
Dune Imperium.
Go ahead and explain it because it's way more involved.
So the combat in Dune Imperium is that there's spots on the board that allow you to put troops into the combat. That's the first thing. There's also abilities where, and mind you, in vanilla it's cubes. Those are your soldiers. I have the one where it gives me little minis so it looks a little bit better.
Yeah.
But mainly is like you can either rally your troop, or I think it's rally troops where you can put certain cubes into your holding cell, I guess you can say. And then when you go to spots, you can start moving up to so many troops into the combat. And when everybody... when
they first go into the garrison, right?
Yeah, garrison, that's the word I'm looking for.
Garrison...
And then they can go into the combat. You can move so many cubes into the combat. And usually something will tell you can move 1 to 3 cubes, but if you don't have anything in the garrison, you can't move cubes in there. So you want to make sure, and you start with, I think, 3 in each garrison at the beginning of the game, but then after combat, sometimes they can stay, sometimes they go away, just all depends. Each cube, or mini in this case, for mine, is worth 2 combat points. And so you have a little track. Once you do all your combat, you put your track out there, and it can say, hey, I have 10 combat in the first fight. Okay. And then there's going to be like a conflict card that's going to tell you whoever wins the combat is going to get this, second place is going to get this, third place is going to get this. And I'll get to the tiebreaker in a minute because that's the one thing that really annoys me, how that works for the tiebreakers. Okay. But it's... And then when you go into your reveal phase as well, you have combat cards you can use that add 1 to for every, I think it's like a sword or gun. I can't remember exactly what the combat is. Mm-hmm. It's a weird shape, but it adds
it's a sword, but it looks like a shotgun pointing down.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a weird
it's
segmented
It's honestly weird. I understand it because it works for Dune Imperium because I think it's one of the weapons, especially in the newer ones.
It's just the silhouette of it doesn't work.
Yeah, and so they'll add to combat, and so it's basically once it's all said and done, and everybody's played everything they can, because again, you have intrigue cards that can be used during the combat phase, which will increase combat, or if you know you're not going to win and don't want to lose some of your troops, you can slide them back into the garrison. Yeah. So it has some interesting combat or abilities for that, but in the fact is, just whoever's got the most wins the most. Yep. And it makes sense because the in-game scenario for this one is you need someone has to hit 10 points, and then we go through all the in-game stuff. Yep. And so the big part of getting your victory points is winning combat, because a lot of the victory point cards are going to come out that way. So if you win the combat, you get a victory point. There's another part where you can get 2 victory points, and then you can get control over a section. And being able to have control over a section allows someone, if someone goes there, you get a resource for having control of it. It's basically a tax. But you don't get it I don't think you get it from them. I think you just get it from the supply. It's been a bit, I don't remember that rule too much. But yeah, combat is all this game is that it leads up to. You cannot win this game without at least winning some combat, because that's where you're going to get most of your points.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, combat is. I mean, it has to be more important in Dune, which
makes sense very much so. Yeah,
and it makes sense that it's it's an exploration game, not a combat game for Arnak. So
yeah, and so like when I was talking about the combat tiebreakers, we were just reviewing this, and both of us were like, "Oh God,
yeah,
the tiebreaker stuff of it." So it's like if you're tied, then you don't get the if you're tied for first, you don't get the first player thing. You get the second player thing.
Yeah, you both get it.
You both get it.
Tied players get it, but then you skip third.
Yeah, and then if you're tied for second place, third place doesn't get anything, and you get the third place part. It's just like. Yeah. And it makes sense, and I understand why they're doing it this way. It forces more people to be smart about how they're doing their combat. It's just, it gets frustrating, especially when you got to go, oh God, we're tied again. Oh God.
Now, so let's talk about points. Okay. Because this is my biggest gripe against this. Lost Ruins of Arnak is point salad. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get points. You do this, get a point. Do this, get a point.
And there's a very simple.
The track is worth a lot of points. Right. There's a lot of things. Points are fine. In Dune Imperium, you said it earlier, if you win a battle, you'll probably get a point.
Yeah.
If you're in with certain people, you'll get a point. The first to 10 points triggers the end.
Yeah.
That means points are so scarce. And I hate it when games do that. Why not? Like,
and the thing is, they both have very distinct end-game scenarios. Just one's much simpler than the other, because once you go through, I think it's like 6 rounds.
Yes.
That's it. Lost Ruins of Arnak. Whoever has the most points wins.
Yes.
This one can go through several rounds because points are so scarce.
Yes.
We played Lost Ruins of Arnak hour and a half first time we played it. Dune Imperium was almost 3 hours long.
Yes. Yeah, first time
because we have to hit 10 points.
Right.
I think there's a rule. I don't know if it's a variant online or what like that, but you play to 8 points to trigger the game, just to shorten a little.
Well, that's just because people are sick of like
because it goes long.
I mean, like, God forbid there's a battle where the point is the main. Like, you get a point if you win the battle, and then 2 people tie, so nobody gets a point. How not fun is that?
Yeah, exactly.
I hate it when it's like. Outer Rim
and I meant what Illumina says. It makes sense. You got to think 3 steps ahead. You got to be smart. But it's understandable. It's very strategic.
Your strategy doesn't mean that other people can't have the same good idea. And when you're doing that, I get it, but I hate games that do that.
No, yeah.
Like, what was the game? Outer Rim. That's a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
First to 3 points, it's like. Yeah, you're taking an hour to get a point or whatever, right?
It's not first to 3 there, buddy.
How many is it?
That you're thinking Wasteland Express Delivery is the first to 3.
Oh, that's stupid, yeah. First one to 3 points, and it takes an hour to get a point. It's so dumb. Like, I hate it when that is. It makes it seem...
Outer Rim, I think, is 10 points as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why not just say, like, okay... Once somebody has completed X number of objectives, like, stop calling it points when all you're going to get is 4 points throughout the whole game. That's so frustrating. It's so demeaning where it's like, I've done all this work and for nothing. No points. I had 1 point throughout the whole game and I did just as good as anybody else. No, I can't stand that. That's why the point system, even though it's point salad in Arnak, you get rewarded
makes more
for
sense. Yeah.
anything you do.
And our mutual friend mentions this too. It's like you have to work so hard to get a point in Dune Imperium. Whereas Lost Ruins of Arnak, you still work hard. You work smart.
You get 5 points.
Yeah,
it happens.
But you work smart of how you get the points. But again, it's like it's a point salad. Points don't matter till we get to the end.
Right, exactly.
Whereas this one, the points matter because you have to work for those points.
And Luminous, I'm going to argue kind of against you. He said it's more cutthroat. Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess technically that's cutthroat, but at the same time, it's not. It's also really frustrating from anybody's standpoint. Nobody feels good about it. It's like,
and the big thing about
an abundance of awesome. But you did it slightly better than me, and therefore you get a point.
And the big thing about it is, too, is like if you have those intrigue cards that can just put you over the top, that can be frustrating because you're like, okay, I did all this. I have this military. I'm good. I think I'm fine. And then someone plays like a card that gives them 4 combat that puts them over the top. It's thematic. It is thematic. I admit.
Think about it this way, though. Let's say, in a weird comparison, I'm just gonna say, let's say you, me, and one of our friends are playing, right? Mm-hmm. And you do something absolutely amazing, gets you 27 points, sure. And he does something almost as amazing. He gets 25 points, and I don't compare to either of you. I don't do anything good. I get maybe 5 points, right? Mm-hmm. You guys are both out ahead. Let's say same thing, Dune Imperium, right? We both all three of us go into a battle. You get like 40 combat points out on the board, right? He gets 39 combat points on the board, and I get 0, right?
Yeah.
Same comparison, right? You're the one who gets the point for it. He gets nothing. He gets nothing.
No, he doesn't get nothing. He gets a reward of some sort. He's got second place.
That's not a point. And that's what I hate that.
The bigger thing too is like as we're going through more and more combat stuff, and there you get the second place can end up getting points as well. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, so regardless though, that's my biggest part about I don't like it when games do that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about component quality.
So we're talking base vanilla component quality because the special stuff that I got is basically an expansion and a bigger box to hold everything. But base both. My issue with Lost Ruins of Arnak, and we've had this discussion, is that they give you all these nice pieces and then cardboard
tablets, plastic arrowheads, plastic rubies, cardboard compasses,
and cardboard coins. It's like
cardboard coins. Okay,
come on! If you're doing all this, give me a little bit more plastic.
And wooden magnifying glasses and wooden books
that you have to put the sticker on.
It's like, that's a bit odd. I mean, but other than that, like the art on Lost Ruins, I like the art quite a bit. Personally.
Yeah, it's really good art.
I like the weird view of the board, how it just like zooms out, like the further up on the top of the board, like it's like looking at a distance and stuff. Looks really good.
Lost Ruins is really good on the component side. When we're talking about the inconsistency is a little annoying, but the card quality is really good. The board's really nice.
Quality works. It's really high quality card.
Biggest issue with Dune Imperium is the board. The board's a little boring. I'll be the first one to admit the board.
Even the symbology, it's there to help people that are colorblind like us. But that is like a blue circle, boom, and
then a red hexagon.
To it. Okay.
So like you have those
kindergarten shapes here,
and then but at least they're consistent with their components. Everything's wood. Your workers are wood. Your discs are wood.
No, you know what I don't like about that though. Is like I get like
and your cubes,
your spices, hexagons, generic. Your coins, whatever they're called again,
the Solari,
discs. Your water drops, at least they're water shaped. I'll give them that. But your warriors that go out the cubes.
So I will say this though, what I do like what Dune Imperium did is that within Dune Imperium they didn't use screenshots. They made their own art based on the actors.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it is phenomenal.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
And the art that they did was really good, too.
Yeah. No, I love it. And
they
honestly...
spent all the money on the cards.
On the
Clearly,
cards.
not on the board, but on the cards.
I think a big part of it, too, is they wanted to do what like that big box is, but they wanted to get the game out and proper for everybody. That's why the big box was pre-ordered, because they could see, I guess, where things were going in a sense. Yeah. And it just get it out faster, especially because they were trying to time it to be out around the time the movie came out.
Yeah.
And so, sense. Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't have, Lunas was saying he wouldn't have bought the game if it was screenshot like Legendary does. And so, yeah, no, I agree. I love the fact that they created their own art based on the actors that are playing. It's phenomenal. I think that's one of the best things about that game. Yeah, the board is boring. Yeah, the basic shapes are
Right.
But that artwork just... And then that cover. I love that cover. It's so simple. Really yeah.
So now let's talk about the one big advantage. So it seems like obviously we're leaning more towards Lost Ruins if we had to pick a preference. But there was one thing that we haven't really touched base on, not including expansions.
And just in the vanilla.
That Dune Imperium had a huge advantage
and why I prefer Dune Imperium over Lost Ruins of Arnak originally, and it's that they had individual player powers.
Yes.
Your character only has this one power. This is only in Lost Ruins of Arnak. You're just a generic explorer. You have the same abilities as the person next to you. If I'm playing Atreides, I feel like I'm playing Atreides because I have that ability. If I'm playing the Ben Gesserit, I feel like I'm playing the Ben Gesserit because I have a special ability. And so I love that. I love that in games. If I'm doing something different than that you can do, and honestly, it was really simple how they did it on Dune Imperium. It's just the same card for everybody. If you just play that card, you get to use your special ability. One of them, the main one, allows you to look what's coming up next and put it down or put it under, so you know what's coming up next in your hand when you're going to draw, and that becomes a little bit more powerful as you're playing the game because you're getting better cards in your deck. And so I really like that ability. Or some will be like, okay, I can do this for combat and stuff like that. It was hands down what made it my favorite compared to the two.
Right, and that's fair. And see, since I knew nothing about that, that was the reason why I thought they were even. Because I probably liked Arnak better. Yeah. But I appreciated the fact that it was so much more variable, and you felt different in Dune Imperium at the same time. And that's probably why I thought they were.
Another reason why I liked it too is like with Dune Imperium, once you get a better understanding of the game, you could play the other factions that are much more advanced. Yeah. Which gives you another strategy to play the game. Whereas Lost Ruins of Arnak in the vanilla, once you play the game, you pretty much know. There was no really variability on this. The only variability really is what Guardians came up from game to game. That's the only difference. Where Dune Imperium, I can play different factions and understand what's going on
and feel very differently. Cool. So let's finally talk about the expansions. The difference. Okay. First off, Lost Ruins of Arnak has the Explorers expansion.
Now, again, I don't know a lot about Rise of Ix, the Dune Imperium expansion. I have it. I looked at it originally when I got it. Now, it does some things, and I know a lot of people are saying it's phenomenal when it does certain things, but I haven't played it, so I don't know too much about it. I know it adds like two more. Know about it? It adds 2 new factions is the main thing I remember, and they have their own abilities as well. So they actually, I think it adds another like row of cards that you can be bought. It just gives you a little bit more stuff in the games. They add new boards too. So
cool. Okay.
So I do want to get it to the table. It's something I want to get played. But Lost Ruins of Arnak, we have played the expansion.
So we're a little more accustomed to this. The biggest difference that it did was it added variable player powers. Yep. And not just like, each character gets their own ability. No, these are hugely different.
And distinctly different.
They have their own different decks. Mm-hmm. They have their own different ways of endgame goals. Yep. They have their own different abilities. And so for example, I used the Falconer as my character, which is not a traditional style of thing. I mean, like I had a falcon that would fly around and get me extra bonuses and go interact in different ways. That made it so interestingly fresh and new that was the reason I would consider buying the game. Because at first I was, as I said at the head of the podcast, I wasn't the biggest fan of either of them. Yeah. This I will gladly play again, but only with that expansion.
Yeah, and then with the expansion, I played the Baroness, who had some really interesting stuff. She really got a lot of money, so I could buy a lot of items that helped me out through the game. What I really liked about it is both of these games have a way to shed cards. Yep. Well, I had a specific card. Even if I trashed it and shed it, this way I can do something else. It comes back to me, no matter what.
Oh, fun!
Every top of the round, I get that card back. Even if it's nope, I'm going to trash this because this tells me to trash something because I know I'm going to get it back. And it does such a good job about that. It just to the point. It like I mentioned before, this Lost Ruins of Arnak got jumped up probably over Dune Imperium. I haven't played the expansion, so I need to be hesitant when I say this. Yeah. Just because of the player abilities, because it made a good game great.
Yes.
And the thing is, I will never play vanilla Lost Ruins of Arnak. Right. I will teach it with the player abilities. Yep. And I have. Yeah. Because it doesn't really do too much different in the game. Yeah. Even if you just play with like the vanilla board and everything vanilla and just give them the specific characters, it just makes the game so much better.
Yeah. It makes it really different. So overall, as of right now, we're going to delve into each of our... Let's actually pull up our top 8 debate criteria. And let's kind of break them down real quick for each of the games. Okay. Like which one's easier, which one's all that stuff. We'll go into just some last little quick points of interest that we haven't touched base on fully yet. But so ease of play. Lost Ruins of Arnak, I think, is simpler.
Oh my, yeah. Now, both of them, you're familiar with the mechanisms. You know worker placement. You know deck building. But all the different steps you have to go through and do an Imperium.
Right, exactly. Likelihood of getting to the table, that depends on if you're a Dune Imperium fan, or a Dune fan.
Well, it just depends. Also, there's people who are into sci-fi more than they are into exploration, and Dune Imperium will hit that. I think it's more just what you're into in that aspect.
That's true. Prone to AP, analysis paralysis.
Both of them have it.
They both have it, yes.
Dune Imperium more so, just because you have to be smart how you play on your card, so you're constantly thinking about what you're doing.
Okay. Under our replay value, minimum number of plays for full experience, base is clearly Dune Imperium.
Oh, base is Dune Imperium.
Yeah. Expandability, both of them are both expand.
Yeah, have an expansion. I think there's one technical expansion, but like the minis and stuff like that was another expansion. It is, but it's just added components. That's all it did.
And length of time and scaling well. I think that goes a little bit to
Lost Ruins of Arnak,
but just
barely. Dune Imperium is a long game, even with 2 players. And that's another thing we didn't talk about is the scaling. The 2-player Lost Ruins of Arnak is going to be by far better than Dune Imperium, and here's why. There's one thing we both don't like.
Right. We forgot about this. It has
dummy
to play
players.
as a dummy player. Yeah, you have to play with a...
I'm fine with a dummy player when I'm playing solo.
Right, but as a 2-player game...
A 2-player game. I don't want to...
3 or 4-player game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And we never played as a 2-player game. So
yeah, we were looking into, trying to do like a 2-player play of it just to kind of get familiar with it again. And we were both like, no, it's got a dummy player.
Right. So, meaningful choice impact on other players' strategy is definitely... with the
Dune Imperium.
Yeah, with the combination of influence tracks and the combat, that's definitely other player strategy. What about your own long-term strategy?
Honestly, I think that's still Dune Imperium.
Okay.
On the simple fact that you have the ability to pivot in Dune Imperium, in Lost Ruins of Arnak. If you start, okay, you know what? Instead of going up there and trying to fight the Guardians, I'll just go to these spots because I have the ability to go to the spots, get the resources. Because our friend was really big into the Guardians. He's realizing, hey, I'm not going to do well on that. And so he started playing on the track we were playing on.
But he couldn't catch up.
He couldn't catch up, but he got close. If he just stayed playing the Guardians, whereas in Dune Imperium, you have to play smartly.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes it arbitrary in a sense is what comes out in the buy roll. Because you have to, I'm not going to use this card because I want to hold it off for combat. Or I'm not going to use this card because I want to use it to buy that card over there. So you're doing stuff like that. Or I really need to use this card because I need to go to that location. This way I can get my extra worker. So that sort of stuff. And then the furthest you're on, those get you points as well if you're going up on that track. So yeah, there's much more pivot possibility in Lost Ruins of Arnak than there is in Dune Imperium.
Right. That makes sense to me. All right, and then so let's talk about game immersion now. Mm-hmm. Do either of them...
Both of them fit their theme really well.
Yeah.
You do feel like you're exploring. It's more Euro style for Lost Ruins of Arnak. You could probably put a sci-fi theme on it and it'll still work, like looking for like ancient alien artifacts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Dune Imperium, you do feel like Dune coming out when you're with the combat and stuff like that.
And I imagine that comes through with player interaction as well. Like,
you remember all the cussing that was going on during that game, where it's like, why would you do that? Why would you play that card in the combat? Whereas in Lost Ruins of Arnak, when we replayed it, I was minding my own little business on one track. But
well, no, but I mean, like, did you feel like you were in the character's head?
Oh yeah, in Dune Imperium. And now, when we're talking about the expansion in Lost Ruins of Arnak, you really do feel like you're playing that.
Yeah, but there's still like, I'm a falconer. What's this falconer's name? What is that? What's
no, I get that.
Did somebody like did like? Did like a good close friend like sink in a boat accident? Like, I want to know.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Like
you get more of it in Dune Imperium. I'm just saying, like, the leader, you get it more now because of the expansion of Lost Ruins of Arnak compared to Dune Imperium.
I think the closest thing to role playing that I ever did as playing as the falconer is I just kept shouting "Caw" at people, but that was like it. Like, it wasn't. I didn't feel like I was a falconer. I just felt like I had.
Hey, I felt like I was a baroness because I was just buying everything.
Well, that's fair. I'll give you that.
And then I was giving like a cargo drop to me as well. So
yeah,
I mean, I got into it, but it's more so in Lost Ruins. Or I mean, Dune Imperium.
Exactly. And then we already talked about art and production, pretty much ad nauseum. Is there anything else about these games? Right. Let's end it with the question: who are these games for? I think the Euro player.
The Euro player's Lost Ruins of Arnak, hands down.
Hands down, right?
Especially with the expansion.
Right, exactly.
But base game, it would be perfect for them too.
Whereas if you're an American-style game, a Ameritrash gamer...
You like something that's very thematic, you're into sci-fi, or... we didn't really talk about this. If someone wants to come out of combat games and play something slightly different, like actual board game style that isn't like African Campaign or something like that,
right,
but
exactly.
And still want to have that combat feel, Dune Imperium's for you. Ameritrash player in combat game or campaign game, combat war games. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, war games. Yeah. And we've already touched base on it. They're not the easiest games to get into. No. Neither of them. If you're not a fairly seasoned gamer, they're both going to be a hurdle to get across. Yeah. So this isn't for grandma. This isn't for young kids.
I recommend whoever buys either one of these games need to do two things. One, they need to get familiar with worker placement.
Yes.
And two, they need to get familiar with deck building.
Yes.
If you're really into Euro style games but only played like something like Ticket to Ride or something like that, then I think you need to play a game that's a little bit above Ticket to Ride simplicity before you can get into like Lost Ruins of Arnak. Right. And Dune Imperium, if you've only played like Risk or I guess Memoir 44, then you might need to get into like a little bit of a heavier games before you jump into Dune Imperium.
Good deal. All right. Is there any other last points that we want to make before we end this episode?
If you're a fan of Dune series, and if you're an experienced board gamer or used to heavy games, give Dune Imperium a shot. I think you'll dig it. If you're also just like board games in general, and you're really into heavier but not too heavy Euros, like medium weight, Lost Ruins and Arnak is your jam. I think you'll like it to a certain extent. It's not for everybody,
right?
But you just got to go into it that sometimes it's going to be a slog learning this game.
Right.
Luckily enough, there is great video tutorials out there to teach you both of these games. They do really interesting stuff. And if you like Lost Ruins of Arnak, I highly, highly recommend the expansion.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. So hopefully we covered all of our bases. Illuminous, Ruffians, Wayne, if you guys are still there, feel free to make any other last minute points. Unless you think we covered everything, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. Wait. A fun little delve.
We forgot that we always do. Your choice.
Oh, my choice between the two. Oh, hands down, Lost Ruins of Arnak. I'm not a combat. I can do combat, and I like thematic games. But since I don't know anything about my biggest thing with IP games is that I feel that if I play a game with a theme on it, that game should want me to look more into that IP. Like, so Star Trek, Panic, Firefly, the board game, those both did that to me.
Yeah.
And I looked into it, and those became those shows. Honestly, after playing Dune Imperium, I'm not any more interested in Dune. And that's...
maybe we'll get you to play regular Dune, and you might get into it.
Maybe it could be, but that game didn't.
Yeah.
So Lost Ruins of Arnak is hands down my favorite. How about you?
As of right now, and this is just a slight edge above because I haven't done the expansion in one of them, and that's Dune Imperium. My pick is Lost Ruins of Arnak, just because of the leader's abilities, and it's slightly simpler. I haven't shown a Dune Imperium to my wife.
Right.
And I have shown Lost Ruins of Arnak to her and our group of friends because they're at that level of game. Dune Imperium's it's such a slog, and I don't know. They liked Outer Rim, so we'll see.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So we definitely want to say thanks for listening to this. Let's talk about the end of the episode. If you ever want to join us on one of our live chats, we do stream these episodes live on twitch.tv/everydayboardgames, and come join in on the conversation, like our friends Illuminous, Ruffians, and Wayne earlier on in the episode.
As well as you can find all video re-uploads on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe if you're not. like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And if you ever want to reach out to us and say hi directly, maybe give us ideas for future episodes, or enter in on future contests that we may or may not be having planned in the future, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as you can get in contact with us on our official Twitter account. This is at EBG Podcast.
And so we want to thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully this answered the question on if you should buy either of them, which one would be the best bang for your buck, if not both of them. So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.